Welcome to Channel Japan. I'm Mai Demizu.
And I'm Mahito Tsuda.
Every week, we bring you the freshest information out of Japan from our studio here in Tokyo.
From the economy to culture and even foods, if you want to find out what's happening in Japan right now, this is where you'll find it.
Well, these are our topics for today. As always, we have some interesting stories to share with you, so stay with us. First up is Project Japan. Well, Utsuda-san, I understand we'll be talking about the year ahead, 2014.
Yes, that's right. Today we'll be exploring what's in store for the Japanese economy this year. And so, Demi-san, is there anything in particular that you're watching in terms of the economy?
Well, I think for most people, including myself, are hoping that our salaries will increase before the consumption hike kicks in this April.
Yes, I can't agree more, and I'm sure that's true for many people as well. Now, looking back last year in terms of stock price movements and also the dollar-yen exchange rate, I have a chart over here. As you can see, the Nikkei average has risen about 6,000 yen since the start of the Abe administration, and at the same time, the yen, which had been strengthening against major currencies and had been causing concern, has weakened quite a bit.
I see. Well, I understand so-called Abenomics effect are being reported widely by overseas media.
Well, yes, it did cause some attention.
Right.
To be drawn, and just to look back, this was the cover of the May 2013 edition of The Economist published in the UK, and as you can see, the Prime Minister Abe has been depicted.
Very interesting, but so it seems to indicate quite a favorable view of recent economic policies. But was 2013 really a milestone in Japan's recovery?
Well, looking at some other data, it's a chart showing Japan's real GDP, and as you can see, it's nearing the peak reached before the global financial crisis, and kind of backs up the view of an economic recovery. But when it's compared with other countries such as the US and Germany, Japan appears to have finally caught up. Yes, but at the same time, though, if you look at prices, deflation still remains an issue, and also trade deficit is expanding. So these things do suggest that we're not out of the woods completely yet.
Well, so will this economic recovery remain on track this year?
Well, to answer that question, we spoke with some of the participants at an annual gathering of economists sponsored by the Nikkei Group. So take a look.
The Project Japan. What kind of year will 2014 be for the Japanese economy? To answer that question, there's one issue that will have a major impact: the 3 percentage point consumption tax hike in April. The government has already unveiled a package of measures to soften the blow, a $50 billion stimulus to strengthen corporate competitiveness, aid in the recovery of regions devastated by the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, and expand disaster management programs. The extra budget is expected to create 250,000 new jobs and lift real GDP by 1%. But skepticism abounds. So how do businesses see the coming year? At the event, Prime Minister Abe promoted his economic policies for 2014.
There are many economists in the audience today, and I would like to inform you that my 2014 economic policy package was approved by the Cabinet just prior to this gathering. It involves injecting $50 billion into the economy to lay the groundwork for a virtuous economic cycle and invest in the future. This is all being done as an investment in the future. What's more, as I mentioned earlier, by all of you investing more, it will help increase the salaries of workers and ultimately give the Japanese economy momentum. I feel that there's optimism in the air. I hope that next year when I come here, the smiles I see today will be even brighter. That is what I hope to achieve. I imagine all of you today will be predicting what stock prices will look like next year. My hope today is that it will be a good number. Next year is the year of the horse, my zodiac sign. I expect that there will be hurdles, but hope to leap over them
The Prime Minister sought to reassure the audience about the effectiveness of his economic policies in 2014. Still, the outlook remains unclear. So what are the predictions for 2014? We spoke with three top executives. Yoshihiko Miyauchi, the chairman of Japan's top general leasing company, Orix Corporation.
Globally, I believe that Japan is in a comparatively advantageous position. I think the outlook is quite positive compared to the past 10 or 20 years. It's certainly not bad. A growth strategy for the economy still hasn't taken firm shape. So, I think the biggest key is whether the growth strategy will be robust enough to pull the economy.
Yoshimitsu Kobayashi, the president of Japan's biggest chemicals maker, Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings, had this to say.
There will be a reaction to the consumption tax hike in April, May and June. As it was just talked about, I believe the $50 billion economic measure will provide quite a stimulus. The economy should largely be on a recovery track from the second half. So in that sense, the exchange rate shouldn't strengthen that much. And depending on what happens with the corporate tax rate, labor policy, environmental measures and the TPP, if there's actual growth rather than just a feeling, I believe the outlook is quite positive. I think a key issue is to restart the nuclear plants as soon as possible, once safety is ensured. In that way, we can reduce energy costs quickly. And the trade balance, we're still importing quite a lot of LNG. So in that sense, we need to solve the problem quickly. Also, raw material costs. That is the biggest problem left to solve. It all depends on that. I'm inclined to be optimistic. Once a person feels positive, it's not that easy to get them down. I think optimism has taken hold quite a bit. It's a bit of a mixed picture depending on the industry. Services or retail, fields that generally aren't weighed down by products have an advantage. Those that have to deal with products in grams, kilograms or tons are struggling relatively, aside from cars. I believe a similar optimism will start spreading through the manufacturing industry in 2014.
While some executives express confidence, others remain cautious. Hiroshi Onishi, president of Isetan Mitsukoshi Holdings, had this to say.
This uptrend won't necessarily continue. Naturally, we have the feeling that last year or the years before were much better. But we're not at a place where we feel confident that this situation will continue. We believe that it may be better to see the future as severe. There's a big negative impact in the form of the consumption tax hike. If there's more clarity on the economy and the government's third arrow, the economy will rebound in the second half. So for the full year, I see a slight improvement.
We also asked about their predictions for the Nikkei 225 and exchange rate in December 2014.
18,900 for the Nikkei and 109 yen to the dollar. 109.5, just shy of 110. The Nikkei is strengthening on the back of the exchange rate. So I believe it will move higher next year. By year end, I expect it to be up at around 17,000. Against the dollar, there's an underlying weak yen trend, which I believe will continue for some time. So, I see the exchange rate going to 100 to 105 yen, maybe even weaker. My optimistic outlook is for the Nikkei to reach around 18,000. The dollar yen is quite difficult to forecast. It's all up to the US. But rather than moving back to the 90 yen level, I believe it will drift very near to the 110 yen mark. For the US to scale back easing is something that won't happen that easily. I still think that the US economy will continue to hold up. So, on a relative basis, the yen will weaken. Against this, the question is how that will impact Japan's energy costs.
SG Holdings began as a delivery company in Kyoto in 1957. We have grown to provide a wide variety of key business services, including logistical support, all across Japan. Reliability and achievement have defined and distinguished us on the Japanese business scene. With heartfelt bonds that connect us to each and every one of our customers. The passage of time has seen our sphere of operations expand from Japan into Asia and across the globe. We will continue to strive to link up people while supporting businesses worldwide. We will also create new value that contributes to a brighter and more expansive future. We make it our mission to connect people and companies around the world. SG Holdings.
Sou uma pessoa comum. Eu gosto de apreciar todos os momentos do meu dia. Quanto isso pode me motivar? Como eu posso me manter focada? Tudo ao meu redor, incluindo os momentos do meu dia a dia, é o que eu preciso para me concentrar para a minha luta de 90 minutos. Quero dar esperança às pessoas. A better life, a better world.
Panasonic.
Mitsui & Company.
Hey, look at this. They're building a huge steel plant with Kobelco technology.
Kobelco? Never heard of it.
It's Japanese. They can make iron with incredible speed. What once took 8 hours can be done in just 10 minutes.
Wow, the Japanese are incredible. The country of karate.
Ha! 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 Karate has nothing to do with it.
True.
The talk of the world. Kobelco.
Asia, the engine of the global economy. Japan, a regional powerhouse. And now, direct from Japan, economic news with a global impact in Chinese, delivered by Nikkei. Read the future, lead the economy. Nikkei, Japan's leading media for business.
You're watching Channel Japan. Up next is Executive Insight. Otsuda-san, who will be hearing from today?
Yes, this time we had a chance to speak with Kenichiro Yamanishi, who is the president and CEO of Mitsubishi Electric. Now, Mr. Yamanishi has been at the company since 1975 and has been long involved in its semiconductor business. And he's an engineer by training and was appointed president 3 years ago.
Well, I understand the 1970s and 80s were the heydays of Japan's dominance in semiconductors, but it's vastly a different picture now.
It is, it is. Now let's take a quick look at what main electric devices makers there are in Japan. These are the names.
Well, for most Japanese, all these logos are very familiar.
They are, aren't they? And now among these companies referred to as general electric devices makers that have businesses in a wide range of fields. And Mitsubishi Electric, which we'll be hearing from today, is involved in everything from industrial machinery, infrastructure, IT, and even defense or aerospace.
I see. Well, the general means anything that has something to do with electronics, right? Well, understand the advantage of that kind of business model is that they can procure supplies and manufacture everything in-house.
Yes, you're right. But because of that, and at the same time, it does become difficult to respond quickly to changing trends, and many of these companies end up sustaining businesses that aren't profitable anymore, and they drag down overall profit margins. So starting from around the 1990s, there have been calls for such companies to focus on core businesses and be more selective in their pursuits.
So has there been much progress in this regard?
Well, if you can take a look over here, it's a ranking of the most read articles in 2013 on a website covering industry trends. And as you can see, many were on the reorganization of electric devices makers.
Well, Utsuda-san, looking at this, I get an impression that there were a lot of moves among electronic devices makers.
Yes, I think you're right. And like we talked about earlier, with the economic recovery expected to make or gain momentum, you could say that many companies are in the midst of laying the groundwork for a resurgence. So to find out how Mitsubishi Electric is trying to position itself in the coming years, we spoke to its president, Keiichiro Yamanishi. So take a look.
Executive Insight.
It's not about choosing first and then specializing, but rather first specializing and then choosing.
Overcoming major headwinds such as the economic downturn and the rise of rivals from emerging economies, Mitsubishi Electric has taken its first steps on a new growth path. While the company was forced to undergo a restructuring, the focus was not on cutting unprofitable businesses, but rather promoting areas with growth potential. A strategy that balanced offensive and defensive measures. So what does the president, Kenichiro Yamanishi, mean when he says specializing before choosing? We speak to him about his strategy amid the major changes in motion at the company.
一つはやはり、超円高と、これがやはり緩んだということで。
One reason that not only us, but the entire industry in general has regained energy is the weakening of the yen from extreme strength. Domestic and foreign manufacturers alike are becoming more willing to invest in equipment. I want to ride these tailwinds to further our global expansion. Looking at your business plan, one of the key themes appears to be balanced management. Depending on the interpretation, it could suggest a cautious stance. Why are you promoting the idea of balanced management?
The
1990s to the year 2000 was a tough time for our business. It was a time when we set out to reorganize the company, revamp our cost structure, and reduce debt. We started out from a very cautious position. Later, we focused on a management policy centered on the three factors of growth, profit efficiency, and financial health. Among these, I have continued to emphasize balancing financial health and profit efficiency. Financial health means to plow rough ground and make it fertile. Profit efficiency is about planting high-quality seeds to reap those fruits. This is what I frequently explain to my employees. These two aspects are the essence of balanced management.
For Mr. Yamanishi, planting high-quality seeds is about investing more in the development and sales of the company's top products. Air conditioners in particular are an area where competition in the domestic market is fierce. But the company's products are highly regarded for their energy-saving features and have retained a stable market share. Another field seen as a pillar of growth is electrical components for cars. They believe the market will further expand riding on the growing popularity of hybrids and electric vehicles.
The electrification of cars, not just hybrids but also electric vehicles, is an area that we have been working on for quite some time. While there are some exceptions, we've supplied a significant volume of components, such as power semiconductors and modules to car makers.
Power semiconductors are a component necessary to deliver high-voltage currents instantaneously. They are a specialized semiconductor that has generated interest in recent years with the spread of hybrid and electric vehicles. These components are actually used in a variety of electric products, including trains and air conditioners.
Was strengthening your power semiconductor business a key issue? They are an extremely crucial device. Products made from silicon are already being used for hybrid and electric cars, solar panels, industrial use inverters, air conditioners, and trains. By turning the raw material into silicon carbide, the efficiency dramatically improves. In other words, the energy loss is reduced. Silicon carbide will be the mainstream in the next generation of semiconductors. Strengthening this area is a key point for our semiconductor business. Please try using this touch panel. You can operate it like a smartphone. And for example, if you tap the icon for the air conditioner, the application will be launched.
Other car-related components continue to be positioned as key growth engines for the company, such as those to control the much-hyped autonomous car. Information communication technology is another area of focus.
We are currently developing a car motor and unveiled one at the recent motor show. Integrating motors and our intellectual property is what we're good at. Motors are used in all of our products, so we have an extremely strong expertise in this technology. One of our strategies is to combine our IP with motors and put them into electric vehicles and hybrid cars. Our other focus is autonomous driving systems. It's unclear if cars can become 100% autonomous, but they will need sensors to prevent collisions. But that's not sufficient for fully autonomous driving. The sensor needs to work with other cars and various external factors. It's crucial to figure out how to connect the location data of cars using a satellite system we developed and the constantly changing traffic conditions. We need to be actively involved in this area.
Other areas which the company considers specialties and are now being positioned as growth drivers include social infrastructure, such as power generation and transmission, and factory automation technology. They are also venturing into new fields. the development of a cutting-edge cancer treatment device that uses particle beams. Already in practical use, it is being promoted to medical institutions around the world. In particle beam therapy, fast carbon ions and hydrogen atoms are beamed directly at cancer cells to destroy them. With pinpoint accuracy and few side effects, it is being seen as a replacement to traditional surgical methods.
なぜ粒子が優れているかというのは、一つにはその物理的な特性の特徴がございます。
Why are particle beams so advantageous? One reason is the physical characteristic. This is a graph that shows the changes in energy absorption when a particle beam passes through an object. It is extremely effective in destroying cancer cells. First, protons and ions are generated here. Then, we use a circular device to accelerate their energy speed to the level needed for treatment. Finally, the beam is passed through tubes and carried to each treatment room. There's a bed where the patient lies, and the beam is aimed directly at cancer cells. Medical equipment for cancer treatment, either particle beam therapy or proton beam therapy, has already been set up at 11 institutions nationwide. Of them, 8 use our products. 16,000 people have been successfully treated with this device. We've received requests from 9 more institutions in Japan. I believe treatments using hydrogen-based particle beams and carbon-based heavy particle beams are businesses that will grow in the future.
The company is working towards the development of globally competitive products that integrate traditional manufacturing and new patented technologies. Sales are also on the rebound, with Mr. Yamanishi confident of reaching a major goal by 2020.
You appear to be on track of reaching the $40 billion in sales you hit in 2007 before the global financial crisis. What lies beyond that? $40 billion is not the final destination. It is only a transit point. We are aiming much higher than that. A big milestone in the immediate future is the 100th anniversary of our founding in February 2021. Incidentally, the Tokyo Olympics will be held in 2020. So between 2020 and 2021, a lot will happen. As we near our 100th anniversary, we plan to draw up a specific schedule as to when we can achieve $50 billion in sales. That is what we're focusing on right now.
Well, Tsuda-san, I didn't know that Mitsubishi had such a vast automotive component business.
Yes, and it also means that they have a lot of potential because the auto industry certainly has a lot of room to grow.
Well, I hope some of their technology will benefit the transportation and electronic system in other countries in Asia. Well, after the break, we bring you Industrial Heritage.
Trading card games transcend generations as well as borders. Trading card games will unite the world. However, the possibilities do not simply end there. Trading card games combine the different forms of entertainment, and fun will link the world as one. Bushiroad.
Together, let's generate happiness. Let's raise the world to new heights. Let's carry our dreams further. At the heart of society, Toshiba Technology. For a growing future, Toshiba. Together, let's create better healthcare. Let's develop a sustainable environment. Let's give children a promising tomorrow. At the heart of society, Toshiba Technology. For a growing future, Toshiba.
Welcome to Tokyo Skytree. This is the grand panoramic view from 450 meters. Here you experience the unforgettable. Look, enjoy, be amazed, and be awestruck. That's what Tokyo Skytree is all about. Japan's latest landmark, Tokyo Skytree.
Traditional,
Consistent.
precise,
Speedy.
professional, innovative,
Polite. Quality from Japan. The best of business in Asia. SMBC. Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation.
Sasuke, a new type of sports entertainment program conquering the world.
It's about human achievement and people's passions, and I think that relates to almost everybody.
From Japan to the world, Ninja Warrior, Tokyo Broadcasting System.
You're watching Channel Japan. Next we'll bring you an episode from Industrial Heritage. So Utsuda-san, what's the topic this time?
Yes, today we bring you the second part of a series on the ancient capital of Kyoto. Now, Kyoto is well known for its traditional atmosphere, but there's something that has troubled its residents for centuries. And can you guess what it could be?
Well, maybe the climate, because it's located in the middle of the valley.
That's true, it's really hot, isn't it? But actually the answer is a water shortage, and there's a river called Kamoga, but the water levels are low and the area suffers from frequent water shortages. So the solution was this lake over here.
I know this lake. Biwako, the biggest lake in Japan.
Exactly, you're right. And over 100 years ago, a major project was launched to draw water from Biwako to relieve Kyoto's water shortages and also fuel local industries. And we go in search of that heritage, so take a look.
Since its founding in the year 794, Kyoto flourished as the spiritual and physical capital of Japan for more than a millennium. But the relocation of the national capital to Tokyo in 1869 closed the chapter on its illustrious history. The emperor, who locals lovingly referred to as Tenchi-sama, also headed for Tokyo. With that, many residents also left the city, leading to the decline of local industries. It was in a period referred to as civilization and enlightenment that the people of Kyoto came together to modernize industry and revitalize the city. But they faced numerous obstacles. The biggest was a chronic water shortage. The idea of drawing water from Lake Biwa had been proposed for centuries. Renowned figures such as Taira no Masakado and Toyotomi Hideyoshi also drew up plans. But because of the complexity of the project, it never came to fruition. Then finally, in the late 1800s, a major project was launched to construct a waterway from Lake Biwa to Kyoto, one that would decide the future of the city. At the foot of Mount Higashiyama stands a statue of a young man. He is Sakuro Tanabe, credited with realizing this centuries-old dream. Sakuro wrote about the idea of a Lake Biwa Canal in his graduation thesis. In it, he proposes an unprecedented construction method, and the strength of his conviction is evident. The Lake Biwa Canal project saved Kyoto from irrelevance and ushered in a new era for Japanese construction technology. There lies a history of the struggles and hardships of Japan's early pioneers.
At the time, major construction projects relied heavily on foreign engineers. But against this backdrop, the Lake Biwa Canal was built entirely with indigenous techniques. It was seen as marking the independence of the Japanese construction industry.
We visited the Lake Biwa Canal Museum.
So this is the canal. It's beautiful.
The Lake Biwa Canal was built on the dream of making Kyoto a great and energetic city 100 years in the future. That's why we're reaping the benefits 100 years later. At the time, the proportion used as drinking water was small. But now, 1,410,000 Kyoto residents, out of a total of 1,470,000, get their drinking water from the canal.
The Lake Biwa Canal rescued the city and the people of Kyoto. So how was such a feat achieved over 120 years ago? With the relocation of the capital to Tokyo in 1869, the population of Kyoto shrank from 350,000 to 200,000, and local industries rapidly went into decline. To remake Kyoto into a modern industrial city, the governor at the time, Kunimichi Kitagaki, drew up a plan for a canal. The purpose was multifold, including a route for shipping goods, power for water mills, and as a source for irrigation and drinking water. Kyoto is situated in a valley surrounded by mountains. The location was geographically advantageous to defend against invaders during its time as the capital, but taxing on the movement of goods. For example, when transporting goods from northern Japan to Kyoto, they had to be first carried by ship to the capital of Fukui. From there, transferred to horses for the journey to Lake Biwa, where they were reloaded onto boats to cross the lake. And finally put on horses again to reach Kyoto. What's more, because of the many mountain passes surrounding the city, costs were high. Another problem was water. As alluded to in a traditional ballad, the Kamo River is shallow for most of the year and dries up, causing frequent water shortages. Governor Kitagaki explained the significance of the canal in the following way.
Fortunately, Kyoto lies at just the right height relative to the neighboring region. By drawing water from Lake Biwa in Shiga Prefecture, there will be enough water for the entire city of Kyoto. With it, we can make movement more convenient, run machines, and make the manufacture of goods thrive. In that way, Kyoto will unmistakably transform from a decaying city to a bountiful land bestowed by the heavens.
With that, a grand project to draw the natural water of Lake Biwa from Otsu, Shiga Prefecture, was set in motion. Tunnels were dug into mountains, blocking the way to the foot of Mount Yamashina, from where the water would flow east to the Kamogawa River. A total distance of 20 kilometers. Detailed land surveys were carried out.
What is this?
This was the main map used when they were building the canal. Governor Kitagaki invited a talented survey technician called Dosei Shimada from his hometown. For 1 year, he wrote down those red numbers across the map. They all indicate the difference with the average water level of Lake Biwa in 1.5 millimeter units.
Using this survey map, they decided on the route of the canal, and the plan steadily moved ahead. A major turning point came when Governor Kitagaki met a certain young man. The Lake Biwa Canal project, spearheaded by Kyoto Governor Kunimichi Kitagaki, faced one big problem: who to entrust to oversee the actual construction.
This sort of massive construction project was typically carried out by hiring a foreign supervisor. But the pay for foreign supervisors was high, and what's more, Japanese wouldn't be able to develop technical skills. So the governor wanted to do this project with just Japanese people.
As the governor was planning the project, a young man in a village in the mountains between Lake Biwa and Kyoto came onto the scene. He was Sakuro Tanabe, who later became the supervisor of the Lake Biwa Canal project and laid the foundations of Japanese civil engineering. This is Sakuro Tanabe's grandson, Yasuo. Yasuo followed his grandfather into the technical field and currently advises companies on nurturing engineers. But he says he will never measure up to his grandfather.
At 23, he was entrusted with that bigger project. At 27, he had a doctorate in engineering. It was a time when the pinnacle of a career was to be a minister or get a doctorate.
Sakuro Tanabe was born in Edo, present-day Tokyo, in 1861. The Tanabe family had been academics in the employ of the Tokugawa shogunate for generations, and his father was an expert in gunnery. Following the surrender of the Edo castle in 1868, he moved together with members of the former shogunate to Shizuoka Prefecture and enrolled in a school affiliated with the Numazu Military Academy set up by the Tokugawa family.
The academy was founded with the aim of taking back the country by studying modern weaponry and military strategy. These were the factors which the Tokugawa believed led to their defeat by the Satsuma and Choshu armies.
Sakuro, who was already studying under a modern Western education system at this time, later enrolled in the construction department of the Imperial College of Engineering. The college was established with the purpose of bringing modern Western technologies into Japan. The catalyst was an overseas mission headed by Tomomi Iwakura, who was shocked by the advances made by the West. From England, which had just undergone an industrial revolution, the school invited an engineer named Henry Dyer to not only teach theory, but practical application to nurture Japanese engineers.
This is something Sakuro Tanabe said in his later years, but subjects weren't delineated, so it wasn't an age when you could just learn about construction. You had to study machinery, electricity, and even chemistry. You also had to do things with your hands. You had to make diagrams and assemble things.
For his thesis topic, Sakuro chose the Lake Biwa Canal. To research its feasibility, he walked along mountain roads for days on end. But on one of these treks, he injured his right middle finger in an unfortunate accident. Enduring the pain, he used his left hand to finish his thesis. Meanwhile, the infection worsened in his right finger, which had to be partially amputated. In his memoirs, Sakuro writes, "It is more fulfilling to overcome 100 difficulties with my left hand." He believed that with a strong conviction, any hardship could be conquered. His graduation thesis proposed a solid theory based on on-site surveys and advanced construction methods. It received wide recognition. Sakuro would then meet Governor Kitagaki, who visited the academy in search of engineers for the project. In this way, construction was entrusted to the talent and passion of one young man. (1885). The project finally broke ground. What made this difficult project especially challenging was tunneling through the mountains between Lake Biwa and Kyoto. At 2,436 meters, the tunnel was the longest ever to be built. Sakuro Tanabe adopted a construction technique called a shaft method for the first time in the country. Tunnels were bored not just from the sides of the mountains, but vertically from the top, toward the sides. The shaft can still be seen some 120 years later. 6.4 meters in diameter and 47 meters deep, it offered many advantages, such as to draw in fresh air and provide light, as well as to shorten construction times. But because no one had ever attempted this type of construction, they faced a series of challenges. Aside from the use of dynamite to blast hard boulders, everything was done by hand. They burrowed ahead with picks and shovels, removing the dirt and sand with a manually operated hoist.
When they had dug about 17 meters, water began bubbling up.
What did they do?
They were using a pump to scoop out the water, but it broke down. So they used these buckets, which were pulled by hand.
The Shaft Weekly, which kept a record of the project, has an entry about their battle against groundwater. December 6th, muddy water suddenly spurted out from the southeast corner. The shaft became half filled with water and the pump went under in an instant. Work to scoop out the water by hand continued 24 hours a day for several days. Sakuro began worrying that he had made a mistake in choosing the canal route and is said to have been on the verge of despair. But convincing himself that groundwater was inevitable in tunnel work, he began teaching the workers about his theory and techniques at the end of every workday, and putting them into practice the following day. The first phase of the tunnel took 4.5 years. With the entire canal taking 5 years to complete, most of their time was spent on the tunnel. But seeing through the construction of Japan's first tunnel gave Sakudo the confidence of successfully completing the project. Along the canal route, he set up rail tracks called an incline to allow boats to travel up slopes. Used until 1948, it carried over 100 boats on busy days.
This must be it.
Boats climb from the bottom to the top. That site is said to have generated a lot of excitement among local residents.
It's still fascinating to think that boats climbed up a mountain.
With the Lake Biwa Canal, a new route was established connecting Lake Biwa to Kyoto, the Uji and Yodogawa rivers, and Osaka. Sakudo's talent wasn't just in engineering. He also had a keen foresight. During the canal's construction, he heard that the world's first hydropower plant had been built at a mine in the U.S. and immediately went on an inspection tour. Upon returning home, he changed his original plan of installing a water mill to a hydropower station. In 1891, it began delivering electricity. Kyoto became one of the earliest in the world to set up a power business that covered an entire city. By 1895, Japan's first streetcar began running between Kyoto and Fushimi. In this way, by using the electricity, water, and shipping route made possible by the Lake Biwa Canal, Kyoto was able to regain its energy as a city. In addition to the textile and spinning industries that supported kimono making, dyeing, and traditional crafts, new industries such as machinery, chemicals, and metals developed.
The flow is impressive.
There's a famous spot up ahead.
The director of the Lake Biwa Canal Museum takes us to a well-known site. It's reached by going down a set of stairs, as if diving below the canal.
Is this it?
Yes, an aqueduct.
This structure, built within the grounds of the Nanzen Temple, is an arched waterway made from red bricks. The numerous big and small arches are said to have been designed by Sakudo Tanabe based on Western architecture.
Was this place seen as a window to the west?
Yes. They say the red bricks were visible from throughout the temple. It may have looked out of place at the time, but with the moss that's grown over time, it seems to have blended into the surroundings, creating a very beautiful scenery.
The Lake Biwa Canal was completed in 1890, 5 years after construction began. At the bottom of the inclined tunnel is a plaque inscribed with the words of Governor Kunimichi Kitagaki, praising the marvelous view and outstanding ideas. The Lake Biwa Canal was a major project that delivered water necessary for people's lives and industry, opened up a route for transporting goods, and lit up the city of Kyoto.
It was also a major feat that could be likened to a declaration of independence by the Japanese construction industry. The canal not only revived the city of Kyoto, but also allowed the people to regain their confidence.
Later, Sakuro Tanabe went on to oversee other railway and water management projects across the country, leaving a lasting legacy. He returned to Kyoto and spent his final years in this city. The people of Kyoto believe that Sakuro continues to look over the city like the gentle waters of the Lake Biwa Canal.
Well, Demi-san, I think we tend to view Kyoto as an ancient city, but we now know that the reason the city continues to give birth to new industries has a lot to do with that water drawing project.
That's right. If this project hadn't succeeded, Kyoto might have ended up being just an ancient city for tourists. That brings us to the end of this edition of Channel Japan. We have much more in store for you, so don't forget to tune in next week.
For Earth for Life, Kubota.
One day has finished, and one new day has started on somewhere in the world. Kubota supports every moment somewhere out in the world. By the mechanization of agriculture, by the maintenance of water infrastructure, by the latest environmental engineering. We support a prosperous life for humans while protecting the environment of this beautiful Earth. Food, water, and the environment link the world. Kubota.
Mitsubishi Electric is helping to change the environment for the better around the world.
Green subway systems in India.
Green solar power systems in Singapore.
Sistem AC ramah lingkungan di Indonesia.
Eco changes for a greener tomorrow. Mitsubishi Electric.
As the future evolves, Toyota is envisioning a more interconnected life where information and energy flow seamlessly throughout the globe. The road ahead will require diverse and eco-friendly mobility solutions. It is on this path that our small choices lead to big changes. Life. Connected. Toyota.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could do this? We make things like this possible through the power of chemistry. We're the Kaiteki Company, Mitsubishi Chemical Holdings.
Channel Japan. Your source for the voices and views of people and businesses across Japan. The latest reports on Japanese companies, culture, and technology. Find out what's happening on the ground. Every week, direct from Tokyo, Channel Japan.